comments?
Whatever happened with the lawsuits? What happened with the lawsuits?
I do not know what happened with the Georgia lawsuits. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I do not know.
All those places?
I don't know. That's something to find out. I'm just seeing this movie for the second time now myself. But it's a good thought to find out. Any thoughts, questions, comments? Do I hear a comment from the lady in the orange sweater?
Frightening. I mean, it's awful.
What? Frightening.
Absolutely.
Maddening, isn't it?
I mean, we, in New York, we heard about, we read about the Camp Abrams, you know.
But to see the details is just absolutely incredible.
It is.
To think, and of course, he was Secretary of State, just as our Secretary of State in Florida controls our elections. But he was that, and he was also on the ballot for governor, so he did absolutely everything to deny anybody else's vote.
And one of the Dakotas, I believe, the way they suppressed the vote, the woman lost the election this time because they did not recognize the legal address of the Native Americans on their reservation. There was some provision of the law that gave everybody the right for a single address on the reservation, and thousands of names were taken off of, and that was the margin of loss for that particular progressive congresswoman.
Oh, my goodness.
Comments?
Yeah. There is one slight error in that film, which is
Hold the microphone up to your face.
they mentioned that in Florida that the vote gave felons back their right to vote, but the Republican administration, legislature, is trying to walk that back by insisting they pay all court case costs, and some of them are astronomical and, you know, beyond the ability of a former felon who may be making $8 an hour and is faced with maybe a $3,000 court cost to regain his voting rights. I mean, it was just a walk back to try to get around the vote that Florida voters, you know, had put through to restore the felon voting rights.
Exactly. It was a major victory to pass Amendment 4 to restore the voting rights of former felons who were not convicted of murder or child rape. But that's what's happening. In every instance, it appears that those in control, and particularly the Republican legislature here in Florida, will do everything possible to try to reverse that. That's still being contested, and there was a small victory for the 17 people who had the case. And so I understand that Desmond Meade is now going on a bus tour, believe it or not, even in these terrible times, difficult times, to help to try to get more African Americans, more black people registered to vote, and also to work on getting the court costs, you know, to raise money to help pay for those fines for the 900,000 or so of the 1,400,000 that still have major costs. It's an ongoing challenge.
Well, I thought I had read that in one case, the judge had decided in favor of letting the felons vote without paying back their fees. Now, that was just recently. Was that just for a small part, or a group, or I thought it was in general?
No, each judge can waive on appeal, can waive the situation, but it's not general at this point.
It's only for those 17, I guess.
Well, no, or individuals can go up and plead or whatever, make a case and see if they can be relieved, but it's very, very small.
Very small. Also, wasn't there some redistricting problem in Sarasota? They're working on breaking up this neighborhood.
Well, that's the other thing that many of us were involved with. Again, the effort to pass single-member districts for electing county commissioners was something that we led in Sarasota Alliance for Fair Elections. the effort, and people all around the county helped us. And thank goodness, 60% of the voters, of people of all political parties, voted to change the way we elect county commissioners from at-large to single-member districts, which means that you have to live in your district, but only the people in your district will elect you. Before, people had to campaign countywide and had to be elected by everyone across the county. So if you're here in Venice, somebody in Northport or in North Sarasota could be determining who your commissioner is. And so this is, for accountability, we passed that. And again, the county commissioners in power don't like it. So that's why they did the redistricting in 2019, and people fought it, we fought it for months. And they did it anyway.
They did it.
Because they can do it when they're in power. And the Constitution of Florida says, yes, they can redistrict in an odd-numbered year. And guess what? 2019 was an odd-numbered year, even though it was just 1 year before the census, when they have to redistrict afterwards. So that's a real problem. We are up against it, folks, and sadly, it does seem to be that the people in power want to keep their power, and they'll do anything to stay in power, and it's maddening. But are there any other thoughts or comments? Because I made a few slides about. We can look at the history and talk about, the Voting Rights Act and other things, but frankly, I just want to show you a few things that I put together. This is my opinion or my view, and there will be other examples, other resources. But if we can, oh, I'm sorry.
I just had, I looked up the lawsuits to see where they were. And the one lawsuit holding current Governor Kemp liable for using his role as Secretary, he was Secretary of State or Supervisor of Elections, Secretary of State. So January 10th, apparently, he had to answer a limited amount of questions for a limited amount of time in front of people. I didn't really see what happened with that. This other lawsuit has just been dismissed a month ago by a federal judge. It was the lawsuit about long lines and not enough voting machines filed by Georgia Shift, which I guess represented a lot of different people. And unfortunately, the judge ruled that the organization called Georgia Shift and several voters didn't show the court how the court should intervene beyond ordering election officials to comply with the law. So it's this weird kind of like, well, there's nothing we can do about it now. Yeah, so most of the lawsuits have been, I guess, they're done, so.
Brad?
I think you've answered the question I was going to ask by this slide here. I was going to ask if there's some specific actions that we could take to try to help with this. Yep. Anything other than that?
Yes. Okay, so just to move forward, to me, we need to look forward at what we can do locally. The issues going forward are encourage all the people eligible to vote in all elections, to understand the candidates and the issues, and to protect the vote. 2, to hold elected officials accountable, and there should be a doc about that too. And 3, if elected officials are not responsive to the people, throw them out. Right? Anything else? To be those are the overall issues. So next slide, please. Okay, so the number 1, vote, know the issues, protect the vote. These are the resources that all of you can look at it, and if you sign up on the sign-in sheets, I can send you the links so you can see the direct links, because very, very comprehensive website is sarasotavotes.com. That's the Supervisor of Elections website, all kinds of information there, and also to protect your vote. In fact, I emailed Ron Turner just the other day. He got back to me right away. He said, the most important thing you can do is to verify your information. Make sure it's up to date and current. And if again, if you're taking any medicines, make sure your signature is current, because sometimes people's signatures change if they're taking some medicines for any reason. But also, you can check on that, whether your vote has been counted. If you, for one thing, get an absentee ballot, get a vote by mail ballot, absolutely great idea, especially now in the age of coronavirus. But there are all kinds of information there. You can find out what precinct you're in. You can find out everything you might need to know about how to vote for your county commissioner or your school board member, and find out what district you're in. Good info. Again, I can send you specific links if you have specific questions to make it easy, because it's a lot of information there. Secondly, scgov.net. That's the county website. There you can see who the county commissioners are, what district you're in. You can see the map that they gerrymandered in 2019. It's called 4.1. That's what we're using now. And you can also see exactly when they're going to hold the county commission meetings. You can view the meetings online if you can't be there, but by all means, go there, speak up on issues that matter. It's a tremendous resource. And for the local legal women voters, that's always good information for people of all political parties. That's another resource. There are many others, but those are the three key ones that I can think of at the moment. Okay, next slide. And this again, there are many other ways, but locally, if you get the Herald Tribune every Sunday, you can see how our representatives, our federal representatives voted. You don't have to just listen to what Buchanan and Stubbe say or Rubio. Guess what? You can see in writing how they voted, and oftentimes how they vote is contrary to what they say to you in person. Funny thing about that. State. I highly recommend UU Justice Florida take action. If you go there, that is a compilation of key issues that many people agree with who are concerned with things like a president vote. This is for people of all faiths, of all political parties, really, and many outside groups. And we have someone who is tracking this for you. You can also, of course, go to the website for flsenate.gov, the state senate for the state legislature on your own. But this makes it easier. And by the way, even though the Florida legislature ends this week, the 13th, bills will have to go to the governor. It will help if you raise your voices about bills that he's going to sign or not sign. Again, when you see all those crowds, they need to hear from us. Our legislators need to hear from us. If they don't hear from us, all they hear from are the lobbyists. No kidding. And if they see that we're tracking them, we're following a bill, calling them to account, then they know that they're being watched, and maybe we can have a difference. As you saw, at least in one instance, when all the people stood up in one county, they made a difference and they got them to restore precincts. Again, locally, there are all kinds of great opportunities, but there's a newspaper that's an online newspaper. It's $30 a year, SarasotaNewsLeader.com. In-depth articles on issues for this county. It's worth it. It's worth every dime. Rachel Hackney Brown, right? Is the
Just Rachel.
Rachel Hackney? Okay, there you go. It's worth getting that. Also, if you're on Facebook, there's a great Facebook group, Citizens for Sarasota County. Join that. A lot of people are discussing issues critical to our county there. And also the Tom, our wonderful videographer here, has a blog spot. What is it called? Sarasota 2050 Vision? Sarasota Vision?
Sarasota Vision 2050.
SarasotaVision2050.com. Great blog. He does great work. Okay? Former newspaper writer, right?
Yeah. I worked for the Herald Tribune for 10 years.
Oh, he worked for the Herald Tribune for 10 years. Okay. And other things. And really knowledgeable. Tom Matrullo. Thank you so much, Tom, for being here. And if you really want to see what's really in the background, if you want to see the dirt, email John Sushi, jsushi@msn.com. Get on his list. He will show you the connections that are happening with people who are in office here in Sarasota County. It's eye-opening, okay? It's eye-opening, worth checking, because so much is happening. We need to be aware of this, so that you're more informed when you think about who you might vote for these critical local offices. Local offices matter. And really, write letters to the editor, that's what LTE stands for. Speak at the city and county meetings, call the legislators, and if you want any of these contacts, again, sign up on that list outside, because I can give you a list of how to write to letters to the editor, where to write for the Gondolier, the Herald Tribune, the Englewood Sun, and the Northport Sun. I need to find out more about the North County paper. The Observer Group, very conservative. Everybody needs to hear from us. Write, speak. And if you can't write a letter, I've got some people who are doing fabulous ghostwriting. They will give you a letter. You can check it over, you can sign it if you want to. Submit it, come on. They need to hear our voices. Okay, next letter. Throw them out. That's the other alternative, okay. So number one is really very bold because, if you want to consider running for election, see what offices are open, get a packet of information at the supervisor elections office here in Venice, or Sarasota, or Northport. This year, 3 county commission offices, districts 1, 3, and 5. You can see that on scgov.net. School board districts 2 and 3. There are already some candidates there, but Eric Robinson is in District 3, folks. If anyone feels bold and has some experience with education, think about it. Worthwhile. And if you don't want to run, see what the candidates are that are running, and then they're listed all on SarasotaVotes.com. You can see exactly who's running, who's filed, and everything. You can check their websites, check them out, find out what they stand for, and then if you find somebody who's good, help them, support them. Go door to door, drive for a canvasser, give money, whatever you can. We need to get good people elected at the local levels. Because guess what? The people who are county commissioners now may end up running our legislature and voting on all those horrible bills that you don't like. So think about what we put in for local offices at the county level, city county level. It makes a big difference. School board. And again, there's a new group. It is multi-partisan. It's called Citizens for District Power. Just getting started. Email citizensfordistrictpower@gmail.com to find out about it. This is to help sustain the single-member districts so people are aware of it, and it's going to vet candidates and show you information about local candidates. So this is a very good thing to get involved with, and I hope you do. Okay, well that's it. Are there any other questions? Because, yes ma'am.
I'm Jewish, Sharon from Oregon, and you can only vote by mail there. I just wondered what the status of some kind of policy like that in Florida is. Do I need to repeat that?
Okay, well, the thing is, we have vote by mail is optional.
Right.
But I'll tell you, I encourage everybody to vote by mail because guess what? You can always get that ballot, and if you don't want to vote by mail, you can walk it into the elections office on the day of the election, turn it in blank, and vote in person. But it's a protection because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, who would have thought of coronavirus? But guess what? A lot of people may have problems with that. But something can come up. So we recommend vote by mail. Always a good idea.
But it's not.
It's not for all. It's not mandatory.
I also had another.
Do you have the microphone? This lady in blue. Oh, purple. Oh, yes.
Well, Annie got a vote by mail and I didn't, and she's holding on to it. And I think the thing that I'm hesitant about is what's happened in our primary. If she had voted earlier, it'd be somebody different than it is now. And so as I watch this, and then here we are in the coronavirus, and we're planning to vote next week, but I also know it's important, and I know folks are saying it's important to vote by mail, but based on this primary, it makes me not as sure that's the right thing to do.
Well, the point is, you don't have to vote right away. Vote by mail means you get the ballot, you have it. I have a vote by mail ballot, and I haven't voted yet.
Okay.
Okay, and sadly, in many of the states where they've had early voting, people are sad because their candidate has dropped out. So that's a problem. I mean, the ballots were printed on December 11th.
When do they have to be sent in by?
Well, they have to receive them by 7 p.m. on the 17th,
Okay.
on voting day here in Florida. So,
Or you can go in person.
or you can go in person, walk them in, drop them off, but I would hold on to the ballot and not vote.
Yeah.
That happened to some people.
So my question is, can I have to take my ballot to the election office, or can I take it to my polling place?
Actually, that's another situation. You can mail it in now.
Right.
You can mail it in now, or you can take it to one of the early voting sites now, which the early voting is on until the Saturday, the 14th, right? And that's at the Anderson Building, Terrace Building, the Northport, or the North Sarasota Library. You can take it in, or you can take it in on election day. but everybody, be careful of one thing. We have one of the best supervisor of elections, I believe, in the state of Florida. He's very helpful, but he called me this morning. I sent him a list of questions, and I asked, one of the questions was, have any of the precincts been removed? Per the movie, you know, have you purged any votes? They did a list maintenance in 2019, an odd year, but he said they don't do anything in 2020, and he's very accurate about how they do this, and it's all legit, it's all good here in Sarasota County. We're very lucky. But he called this morning at 8:30, he said, Kendra, I've got to tell you, there will be precinct changes now because of the coronavirus. Some precincts will be dropped because there aren't enough people. Poll workers are dropping out. They're quitting. And they may need to, but he said people will be notified which precinct they can vote in. So it's, your vote will count if you go to your regular precinct on election day and it's been moved, you'll have to go to another place. But that's because he said we have to monitor this on a moment-to-moment basis with this disease. Okay. Yes? Would you?
Aren't you only, when you vote by mail, you're only, when you register, it's only for a brief period of time? You have to re-register after so much time because you're automatically dropped?
No.
What is it? Do you know, what's the rule? 3 years?
You can
It's 2 general elections. If you want to continue to get it by mail, that's your point.
Yes, that's my point.
Yeah, you have to recheck in with them after 2 general elections.
Yeah, so you sign up for vote by mail and you indicate the time period, so that's good.
Thank you.
Okay, a lot of questions, anything else? Folks, let's vote. Get smart. Okay, do it. That's it, onward, rank my vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you Kendra. Appreciate being here. My name is Laura and we are part of a nonpartisan group called that is encouraging ranked choice voting. Before I start, I really just kind of want to get an idea around who actually knows what ranked choice voting is. Okay, so we've got half and half, and I think that's actually one of our #1 battles, just really informing people what this is, ranked choice voting. So as Kendra says, get out and vote, but we also want to change how we vote. Because there is a problem with how we vote now, and it's often you choose between who you like the least, or who you dislike the most, right? So, turn this guy on. Yes. There we go. Excellent. So just a quick outline of today's talk. Today we're going to talk about the basic idea of what ranked choice voting is. Try to inform everyone, get everyone involved. We are starting on a very local level. We are working within the city of Sarasota, which has voted and passed ranked choice voting as a means, and we will talk about how and why this has not actually been implemented yet. We're going to talk about the problems with plurality voting. So people actually win an election without receiving a majority of the vote of their populace. The solution, which we think ranked choice voting is a proper solution for this. RCV already in practice around the states and around the world. So there are examples of ranked choice voting, and I'm going to say RCV from now on just to kind of smooth things along. Already around the world that have shown that it works and how to help and take action. So, what is RCV? It's a simple change to the ballot that lets voters rank candidates on the ballot in order of their preference, right? And so instead of just having one choice, I choose A because I don't like B. And then, so sorry, I probably won't vote for C because they don't have a chance. In this election, you can vote, okay, I think A has a good, I like A. All right, but C's okay, but I definitely don't like B. So, the rankings are used to conduct an instant runoff to ensure that winners with a majority of support in a single decisive election. Your vote, if somebody you like does not win that first runoff, your vote will automatically transfer to your second choice. Okay? So, to get serious, right after that Stacey Abrams suppression video, we need to kind of lighten things up a little bit, we're gonna talk about cake, and we're gonna talk about pie. Right? So, cake or pie? Right? Some people like pie, some people like cake. That's the idea, right? So, right? You have a two-candidate race, and let's pretend we live in a magical world where 100% of the people will vote. 43% like pie, and 57% like cake. But unfortunately, we do not live in this type of world where we get 100% of the vote, and it equals out like this, right? So, oftentimes, you're like, actually, I don't like cake or pie, I like cookies. All right? So, cookies becomes, and we use this term because people know what it is, but we don't like it, a spoiler, right? So this is, in general, a third-party candidate. So, in this red, we have 42% like pie, 46% like cake, and 12% like cookies, right? And unfortunately, cookies will never probably win, but you like cookies, you want to vote for cookies, they are who represents you, and you should have an option and choice. Right, and so in the system that we have now, unfortunately, if you voted for cookies, not only did you not win cookies, you probably let pie win, and you hated pie, right? So, in ranked choice voting, cookies gets eliminated, I'm so sorry, but your second choice was cake. And 3% of the voters, their second choice went to the cake, 9% went to pie. Now, from what you can see from this graph is, in the first instance, cake would have won with 46% of the vote. And pie had 42% of the vote. But with ranked choice voting, you see that actually people's second choices, pie would have won. So it makes a huge, huge difference, right? So, and right now we are in a plurality system voting. It limits voter choosing. In this example, 44%, 40%, 16%, same thing. You don't have a majority, but 44% of the vote actually wins the election. Right? So it limits the voter choice, vote splitting, and strategic voting. So a lot of people are become disenfranchised to vote, as we kind of saw in the suppression, obviously with the long lines and et cetera, but if people just don't like the candidates or they think, oh, Stacey Abrams couldn't have won because of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they feel disenfranchised to vote, and non-majority winners, right? And again, this idea in a lot of elections is, I think last election was extremely prevalent. A lot of people did not like Hillary Clinton, so they just didn't vote, right? And this kind of allowed Trump to kind of gain a bit of an upstanding on Hillary Clinton. So, also campaigning on plurality. Sorry, this cartoon's a little hard to understand, but if you're going door to door, you're doing your elections, you're like, yes, please vote, please, etc. I am running for such and such. I am let's say in this instance, I am a Democratic candidate. Will I go to a door with a Trump sign? Probably not, right? This is just an unfortunate consequence. Same thing, if I was a Republican, and we really like to stress this, we are nonpartisan, it goes both ways. Because what this allows in plurality voting is they're appealing to the extremes. Most of us are moderate. We believe we kind of reside in the middle. So, now, if I was a Democratic candidate, and they had passed out a Trump sign, but they were another Republican perhaps, but a pretty moderate Republican, I still might feel pretty invited to say, hey, perhaps, hey, you might not like, obviously you don't like Trump, but you might be a Republican, but I'm a fairly moderate Democrat. Let me talk to you. Let me hear your qualms, perhaps. I can talk to you and I don't feel ostracized by this. Exactly. So it kind of creates, a candidate has an incentive to engage with all voters. And this kind of comes back to if your legislators are not doing what you want, right? They're not incentivized to talk to you, to kind of gain these votes, right? And so, even though they are not the voter's first choice, perhaps you can go to them and be like, hey, you know what? I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, but I'm a fairly moderate Democrat. And I know you don't like this Republican. I'm a second choice, and let me tell you why I think I should be your second choice. So it incentivizes me to go to your door and talk to you, even if we're in a different political party. Because at some point, I think we have to get out of this idea of party divisiveness, right? Most people have more things in common than they are dissimilar. So, ranked choice voting allows for political competition without the spoiler dynamics, produces majority winners, and as we talk about it, And the specifics of how ranked choice voting works, you have to have 50% a majority vote to win. Right? Fosters more positive campaigns. Again, this idea of perhaps I won't be your first choice, but if I want to be your second choice, I'm not going to lambast your first choice. Right? I'm not going to put negative ad campaigns against them or create this sort of very negative political atmosphere. I'm in a positive campaign. Right? Encourages candidates to reach beyond their base and earn a majority